Hey guys, how's everybody doing tonight? Tonight we're going to talk to a veteran in the sport. His name is Rick Laton, and he's been arm wrestling for 30 years plus. And I'm pretty excited to talk to him for sure. And so as soon as he comes on, we'll going to fire off with some questions. And so here we are, guys. We have Rick Layton here, and if you will, just start out with your age, where you're from, and what your weight is.
I am 55 years old from Norwood, North Carolina. I pull 154s. I'm probably 162, 163 right now.
Uh-huh. And so how long have you been arm wrestling for?
I started pulling. I went to my first tournament in January of 1986 and watched and was hooked and didn't know anything about another one until that same guy had the one the next year. So my first tournament that I pulled in was January of 87. So that's 35 years.
Yeah, if it makes you feel any younger, I was born in 1986.
Oh, that really makes me feel better, bud. Appreciate the help.
Yeah, oh yeah, I knew it would. And so you've been pulling for a long time, man. I know times probably had to have changed a ton as far as just even how you hear about tournaments, and we'll get into that. But who would you say in all those 30 years your greatest influence was to keep you motivated and learning more about the sport?
Well, the first part would definitely have been my dad. He was one of those dads that just went everywhere with me. So I pulled for, and we'll talk about it a little bit more later, but I pulled for um, 7 or 8 years before I got hurt, before he passed away. And I can literally count on one hand the number of tournaments that he missed. And I was like 10 states if it was the tournament going on. It's not like now there's tournaments, 10 tournaments a weekend, but back then you would just travel whatever 10 states, you'd just find a tournament and go. And I mean, wherever we went, he was there. But from an arm wrestling, I guess, standpoint, it would probably have to be my buddy Jamie Fortenberry. I met Jamie about 2 weeks after my first tournament. I think you know Jamie. He was at the super matches we had not long ago, and he came into the picture about 2 weeks after I started, and he has been with me for 35 years. I mean, when I say partner in crime, buddy, I mean he's been there with me the whole time, and I definitely wouldn't say I wouldn't be in the sport without him, but he sure has made it a whole lot more fun. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's just great to hear. And anybody who's clicked on this video has already noticed that you've got something wrote behind your head there. It says the Armchair Warrior, and so you also have a YouTube channel, which I'll link in the description of the video below. It'll say Rick Layton, and then it'll have just the clickable link will go straight to his YouTube channel. You can check his videos out. You can subscribe, whatever you want to do. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I started it. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I talked to Michael Todd about it a little bit. He gave me some insight on what to think about, what you were going to expect. But it's not a full-time arm wrestling site for sure. I started it as being a 27-year wheelchair user. I started it as a way to encourage those with disabilities to get out of the house and, everybody's got a different disability. Some are worse than mine, some are better than mine, but I just try and encourage people to, hey, not watch me, but hey, check me out. I am going to arm wrestling tournaments. I'm deer hunting, I'm hunting, fishing, a little bit of everything, coaching little league baseball. So just try to encourage people that, hey, you can do more than you think you can. Don't give up. But so it's a lot about that, but it's kind of morphed more into an arm wrestling channel just because obviously with 35 years in the sport, if they've been in a little while, I know them. So I got some pretty good pull there, I guess you'd say, after the years.
All right. And so since we touched on adversity a little bit, is there anybody in the sport throughout the years that has just kind of been a thorn in your side, or somebody just kind of seemed that whenever you were trying to win something that they were just always standing in the way?
Yeah, I got about 30 second place trophies thanks to a guy named Les Williams, a little fella out of Maryland. He actually was a little bit lighter than me, but after I got hurt, we were the same weight. But yeah, that joker, I bet one year he went to 40 tournaments. No lie. I mean, he was from Maryland. He went all over the place, and it didn't matter where I showed up, he would beat me. So yeah, me and him have pulled a bunch.
Yeah, Les. You said his name was Les Williams.
Les Williams, Wims, multiple time world champion. No telling how many national championships he won. This dude, he was trained by Dave Patton.
Oh, well, that should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, I called him at a place called Joe's Place in Virginia. And first time I ever met him, and beat him the first time I ever pulled him, and lost about the next 30. So, but I finally got strong enough and figured him out. He was one of them guys you cannot regrip. If you open your hand to regrip, you're going to lose ground. So I finally figured out, just clamp him and just don't let him. I don't care how much he picks his fingers up. Don't let him move. So I handled him most of the last part of his career, but yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, I've had some battles with quite a few guys over the years.
And so as far as the I heard you say that you had got injured and everything, and so I was just curious, is your disability, is that something that you've dealt with your whole life, or is that some a tragedy that happened and you've had to overcome, or what's that
Yep.
about?
No, in 1995 on Good Friday, we were taking my dad and I were taking a drag car that we had built. We had run the car for 2 or 3 years. It was pretty quick, little Maverick, 351 Windsor. Ran some 620s with it in the 8th mile. That was fun for a while. And you want to go fast. So we built a big motor, about 1,400 horsepower, full framed it, did all the stuff to it that make it safe to go that fast. We were hoping to run low fives with it, maybe 520s or whatever. We were taking it to the drag strip and not really sure what happened. Had a new enclosed trailer and hit one of those little swells in the road where it kind of does this right here. And I don't know, 20 seconds later, we're upside a tree about 60 miles an hour. So I knew immediately my back was broke. Sound like a shotgun went off. Sound like an arm break is really what it sounded like. Just pow. And I guess shock is a weird thing, because I knew I had enough sense to try to, this is my age right here. I had a bag phone, and the phone actually come apart, and I knew I had enough sense to call my wife, but I didn't have enough sense to put the battery back on the phone. And I knew that I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't talk. But I had no idea I was paralyzed, even though I couldn't move nothing. Shock, I guess, just had me. But my dad was way worse than me. It hit right in his passenger door. So it knocked him out, got him awake on some oxygen. And once he got oxygen, man, he sat there and talked to me for 3 hours while they cut the roof off and the windshield out. We argued about who was going to get out first and all that good stuff. And we said, we love you. And that was it. He passed away the next morning. So, 27 years in the chair. So you kind of get used to it, kind of a part of me.
So after a tragedy like that, how did that affect your arm wrestling? And what do you remember, just any kind of stages or any steps that you may have had to go through? Not to mention, obviously, having to relearn your whole life. I was just wondering, from a competition standpoint, did you have any mental hurdles you needed to get over, or physical hurdles?
I guess originally I got hurt in April of 95. So I didn't pull any from April of 95 until that same January tournament they had every year. I remember going to it, still had the big turtle shell on, and it was kind of just a token thing for me to get up there and pull a couple matches or whatever. So I started back practicing in early 97, and I really didn't have a whole lot of desire, because like I said, my dad was kind of my driving factor. But then I knew he wouldn't want me to quit. I'm starting to get pretty decent at this thing when I got hurt. So he wouldn't want me to quit. So I got back in there, started working. of course, I went from 150 pounds to 130. I could make 132s because my legs and stuff were smaller. Now, in a way, that's an advantage, but believe me, it's a huge disadvantage on the table not to be able to move around, transition as you need to. So, and plus, I have no way of losing weight. I can't run. I can't, do anything like that to lose weight. So, definitely, I would rather have the 15 pounds and the mobility on the table for
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
Not
Yeah,
to mention,
sure.
I would like to walk, but yeah, I went to nationals in Washington, D.C., I believe it was in 97, my first big one back. And I think I placed fourth. Don't hold me to that, but I know I placed because I remember beating Tom Cinco and beat a dude named Jerome Moore, Jerome was the cocky fella at the time that everybody wanted to beat. And I'm sure he got that draw. He said, "Oh yeah, I got this crippled dude over here. This should be pretty easy." I took him out pretty quick, so that was pretty cool. He was a very good puller. But,
yeah, good deal. I think I may have met Tom Simcoe. Does he go by Nitro?
Yeah. And that joker felt like a beast. I went to the next to last tournament I pulled was when Brzezinski pulled Chance Shaw up in Virginia.
You saw that live?
No, I went there. Yeah,
okay.
I pulled that tournament and did good that day. Placed third, did pretty good. But yeah, Nitro was there and he was reffing, and we pulled a little bit after the tournament, and he felt like a monster. I'm talking about his hand felt like a brick. So yeah, he's still at it as old as he is. He's still looking strong.
Yeah, I met him at Virginia sit down tournament.
Yeah, I've never lost to him in a tournament. I don't think we've pulled but maybe 3 times, but I've beat him all 3. But maybe it was because I pulled the tournament that day and was tired, but I didn't have nothing for him. He felt like a rock.
So I'm just curious, over the years, how has your training adapted from, or maybe how has your conditioning allowed you to train different over the years? I'm wondering, or if there's any type of training that sticks out in your mind of a time maybe when you've made a lot of progress or a lot of strides.
Well, when I first started, of course, you try everything. And now let's back up. We got to remember we're talking about 35 years ago.
Yes,
There was no YouTube. There was nothing to tell you how to do anything. You had to figure. I wasn't the pioneer, but you know what I'm saying. We were the beginning pioneers of how to do this thing. So Armbender magazine AAA put out a magazine, the Armbender. So we were like a kid at Christmas, every 3 months we're standing at the mailbox waiting on this thing to come out. It's about this thick. It's got a bunch of results in it, an article with maybe Cobra Rhodes or somebody, a couple training equipment, and you can pay $30 and get a VCR tape of a tournament, where you buy everything you can. Well, I met John Brzezinski at Nationals and talked to him some way back in the day, and he said, "I do not do any working out. I strictly arm wrestle." So 87, 88, when we first started, did a bunch of hammer curls, bunch of wrist curls, but mainly just arm wrestled 7 days a week. My family owned the local bowling alley. That's kind of how I got started. We own a bowling alley, so everybody's arm wrestling across the counter there. Well, when I say I was bad, dude, I was bad. I did not have I won't say I'm not fairly genetic, but I didn't have any natural arm wrestling ability when I started. I was at that time healthy. I was 150 pounds. I could pull guys that were left-handed that were 135 pounds and would just crush me. I mean, I couldn't beat anybody in the place. And I'll never forget a buddy of mine. He's dead and gone now. His name was Nick Chris. He said, "Somebody get him a girl so he can win a match."
That bad.
Keep talking. So I went to that tournament that I told you about that I watched the first time. We had a local hero named Roy Hunsucker. I went to watch Roy. Roy had beaten every 250 pounder in town at 165 pounds. I'm going to watch Roy wipe everybody out, right? Didn't happen. A little fella, 150 pounds from Jacksonville, Florida, named Ray Taglione. At that time, 3-time world champion. Top roller. Nobody knew anything about top rolling in Stanley County, North Carolina. Well, all my buddies are good in the hook, so they're not going to listen to this guy because they're already pretty good. Well, I'm terrible, so I'm taking it all in, right? So I come back, I'm top rolling machine. I bought me a pulley system, and I'm doing this thing every day at lunchtime and every evening. Me and Jamie's getting together, and before long, you know, that if you don't know how to stop a top roll, it will eat up a hook.
Mhm.
So yeah, I progressed pretty quick. But other than the first couple of years, I didn't do any training at all. I didn't do any working out, just straight arm wrestling. Um, Now I have, in the last couple of years, I have done some working out. I've got a pulley machine, and a half table that I do some stuff on. But for, yeah, most of those 35 years, that's why I say I haven't peaked yet, because I haven't really got to my weight training limit yet. So hopefully the best is yet to come.
Well, there's not a thing wrong with that. And so now that you're talking about how you've done a majority of your arm wrestling 7 days a week and all this other stuff, can you just touch quickly on with some of your knowledge on the importance of at least probably a weekly table practice, if not more, and then maybe some tips and tricks of how to go about training with partners?
Yeah, I think other than maybe wrist curls and hammer curls, I'm big on those two things. Other than that, I don't think a man needs to do anything really except arm wrestle. If I have people, yeah, I'm sure you've heard the same thing. People say, "Oh, it's all technique. It's all technique." Well, technique is huge. I mean, you can take a guy that does. You take a bunch of guys that don't know anything and teach one of them how to do it, and he's going to crush the other guys if the strength is close.
Yeah.
But once you get to a state level, a national level, a world level, everybody knows what they're doing. It's back to who's got that strongest wrist right there, you know, and the whole deal. So yeah, you've got to get a good training partner. I don't care if you have to drive 2 hours. You need to get on a table with somebody, or you'll never get any good ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember. Well, I'm just last. I remember my last interview. Um, I was talking to Hunter Knobs, and he was really just bragging on. He was basically saying he wouldn't be the arm wrestler he was today if it wasn't for his team behind him. You know, and he was saying, you know, basically, he basically in a nutshell, he said, you know, I've accomplished some cool things, but in all honesty, I can't take all the credit because I've got guys behind me when I need them, or when I'm sore, or when I need advice, or when I need encouragement, that are there and they're behind me. And so to me, that's also an important thing, because arm wrestling, when you look at it, it just seems like such an individual sport. And then when you talk to an arm wrestler for 5 minutes, you come to realize that they're bragging on their family, or that's the whole reason they do it. They love to see their friends that they love and they care about, and they love competing every week, and they love showing up as a group to a tournament and trying to, you know, you want everybody to say, who's that? Who are those guys? You know, and all that kind of stuff. So,
Hunter's going to be incredible. I mean, Hunter's absolutely the future of the sport. He's got a wealth of knowledge down there. Chad Silvers, Matt Harris, Sean Gillespie. Sean never had quite the accomplishment. Sean and Fritz Corey, those four right there, they don't get any smarter than those guys. Sean and Fritz didn't have quite the accomplishments that Chad has, obviously, but and I'm glad we touched on Chad. I'm planning on doing a very in-depth video on the life of Chad Silvers. A lot of people don't know that he is actually disabled. At 3 years old, he got ran over by a lawnmower, and his legs are very small. His right leg, I believe is actually fused at the knee, so it does not bend at all. He's had about 40 surgeries. Man has been through a lot in his life, and he is without a doubt the greatest. Well, he's in the top 50 greatest arm wrestlers ever, but he's without a doubt the greatest handicap arm wrestler ever been. So he's going to fit right in perfect to my channel. Not to mention that we had wars for about 3 years. Me and him, he was probably my biggest rival ever for about the first 3 years in the sport. I mean, we were 1, 2, and 3 right there every time. So I'm looking forward to that. I was going to do it a little earlier, but I wanted to get a few more subscribers. I wanted to get a few more editing. I wanted to figure out some of the editing type things.
No doubt.
This YouTube is a lot harder than it looks. I mean,
well, yeah, it is. There's a lot of fish in that pond. I think that's part of it.
Yeah, it's flooded. I mean, you get a match and there's 40 people doing the same thing, but hopefully I got a little bit of unique perspective on it. And
Uh-huh.
getting views is one thing, but getting people to actually subscribe, I'm not really sure how you get them to subscribe. But I was kind of the same way because I didn't know what my password was, and then somebody finally told me, "So what's your Google password?" Or it's the same
Mm.
as your Gmail password or whatever. So, and then at that point, now I got 40 channels that I'm subscribed to that I keep up with on a regular basis. Makes it a whole
Mhm.
lot easier to keep up with what's going on. But yeah, I can't wait to do that with Chad Silvers. That's going to be. I always want to do it right. I don't want to rush and
Yeah.
go
Well,
well. I don't want to do him justice.
well, while we're on the subject, I don't want to steal any of your thunder, but can you just think of one in particular story that you have where you and Chad Silvers ended up meeting up either in the semifinals or the finals? Or can you just think of any little instance whatsoever to kind of give us?
Um, Chad is like me. He is extremely competitive, and he was he was way stronger. I mean, the dude was benching in high school at 132 pounds. He was benching 335. I mean,
Sheesh.
that's just incredible for a 16, 17-year-old kid.
Yeah, that is.
He could do things with his arms that I couldn't think about doing, but my hand and wrist was stronger.
Hmm.
And it was kind of funny. I I didn't have a desire to be a world champion arm wrestler.
Hmm.
I was fortunate enough to win a couple national titles, a bunch of state titles, and actually won a world way back. But winning worlds back then is nothing like winning a world now. But hey, all you can do is beat who shows up, right?
Hmm.
But my desire was to be a professional bowler. So I bowled 150 games a week. So my hand and wrist, just fingertip bowling ball, right at the last second, I would cup it up and just wrist curl it, and then that's why the way I could spin it so hard, I could hook it so much. Well, Chad actually got to thinking that my strength was coming from bowling, so Chad took up bowling just
That's
get his hand up as strong as mine. So
funny.
that was kind of cool.
Now that I do like that. I will say you're doing something. You are renting space in somebody's head if they start studying you enough to say, "Oh, well, he's an amateur bowler, or he's a landscaping guy, so I'm gonna go do some landscaping and try to catch him." That
Yeah,
is
he wanted
hilarious.
me bad. So, and believe me, once he finally got me, I held him off for about 3 years. But when he caught me, he was gone. But
Yeah, man, that's a cool story. You made the man take up bowling.
but yeah, my career is like in 20 different pieces. Like I said, I missed a lot when I got hurt. Then I got back doing good again, and then my son got into baseball. When he hit about 7 years old, I shut
Uh-huh.
down my world to. I mean, I still went to tournaments and stuff, and still
Mhm.
practiced, but I was not dedicated at all. I went for 8 years. All I did was focus on him and baseball. I mean, that's all we did. I mean, every day I come home, he's standing in the driveway with a baseball, throwing it up. Come on, 5:15 normal time. Where you been? I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Come on 30 minutes early. Where you been? I'm ready to go. That's what
Yeah.
we did. So I always said that when he graduated, let's see, I was 50. I'm 55, so I was about 51 when he graduated. I always said at 52 I was going to be a bad dude because I was going to be so lonely when he went to college.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, about the time that he was going to go pitch college baseball,
Mhm.
I got a really bad pressure sore and got put into bed for 20 hours a day for 16 months straight.
Man.
Well, my business is going to close. The doors are going to close if something doesn't happen. So Ryan gets in there, my son Ryan gets in there, and he manages to somehow at 17, 18 years old, he manages to keep this place afloat. And of course, he's been running it for 5 or 6 years now. He's doing great, but he had to give up his baseball dream to save the family business. So I regret that like crazy. I hate it for him because that's what we worked so hard for. But he ended up meeting a girl during that time, and now he married her and got a little boy, and they just had another little boy. So God works in mysterious ways.
Sounds like it. That's a really cool story, actually. I mean, who would have thought? And I bet you if you ask him, he probably doesn't regret us one single day. He
Yeah, I'm
probably
sure
loves
he
it.
did. I'm sure he'd like to throw in one game just to say he did it. But
Yeah, of course.
just getting that phone call and saying, "Hey, we want you to come pitch for us," that's all that's all. He's excited with that, and now he plays a lot of can't call it professional softball because they don't get paid, but
But
he plays a lot of softball on some really good teams, so that's
he's
cool.
competitive too, I guarantee you, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
And so something I've noticed about arm wrestling journeys and life in general, from especially from the way you've been talking, is that it's not exactly like this. It sometimes goes, and it's like you're headed up, but you don't always feel like you're on the way up. You're gonna take a loss, you're gonna take an injury, you know what I mean, or you may lose interest, or life may throw a curveball, or just whatever. Can you speak a little bit about where you gather your strength from in times of feeling defeat, or just some different ways mentally you've tried to stay on top of the pursuit of whether it either be in life or just in arm wrestling, the pursuit of continuing to go upwards?
Well, I hate weightlifting. I mean, I
Mhm.
despise it. Some people, I got buddies that like, man, if I'm not at the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, my day sucks. I'm like, I hate every minute of every second that I'm out there doing it. I'm only doing, if I'm doing it, it's just for arm wrestling. But just I guess my point is, when you look across that table and there's a 26-year-old kid that's cocky and he's obviously steroided up and running his mouth and thinks he's the man, and he gets a draw and he looks over there, and whether it's a 40-year-old crippled guy or a 55-year-old crippled guy, they're like, oh yeah, that's a good draw right there. And then I end up spanking him, and I'm thinking, I've never said it, but I've just wanted to say so many times, yep, when you go to bed tonight, you're going to be thinking about me. You know, that's what drives you. Just, I'm not at the point in life that I can win 10, I can beat 10 good guys in a row anymore, but I'm still a threat to beat most anybody in one match. But it's going to be a war, and then I'm done. So I just can't sustain what I used to. But
Well, I mean, whatever keeps you motivated is what's important. You just cling to those things, and then also you have a ton of knowledge. I've heard about my team for the past 2 weeks. Whenever you were talking about having your practice, I say my team. It's not literally my team; it's just a group of, you know what I mean. It's a group of guys I train with, and they were really saying, "Hey, Rick Layton's having a practice on Monday. Who's going? Who's going?" And so they knew that there was going to be a wealth of knowledge there that they're going to be able to stem from. And so I think, part of it may be when you got your elbow on the table and you're getting ready to show somebody what's up, versus also like just seeing the light in some of these new guys' eyes when they come up, and you're talking to them and you're showing them like a thing or two, and it's clicking, and they're, they got that look in their eye, and they're excited, and they're like, man, I can't wait till next week. I can't wait till next week, type of stuff. And I don't know, it's like
yeah,
that
you
Christmas morning thing.
you live it through your guys a lot of times. It's
That's right.
sometimes see my guys do good than it is, to do good myself. And we got a guy named Robert Plyler. You remember Robert?
Yeah.
He
I just
pulled
watched him pull a super match not too long ago, against left-handed, against Ryan the Bull Ballinger.
Yeah, yeah. Robert's a bad dude. Now, I tell this, I can say this because I've said this in front of Robert 100 times, but Robert started when he was about 16 years old. And when I say this is the dumbest arm wrestler on the planet, this Joker's a moron, okay? If I say right, he does left. It doesn't matter what I tell him, he's not listening. Just one of them dudes. Well, he gets in the worst positions. I mean, he's in a bind. Well, after 2 or 3 years of not listening, he gets strong in stupid places. You know what I'm saying? He's just one of those guys that can hold in a spot that's just nobody's supposed to be able to hold there. Well, all of a sudden one day he says, if I do this the right way, I might be pretty good. Well, then all of a sudden he goes to studying everything, every little aspect of the sport. I mean, he's thinking about it like, we've done for years. And within a year, he's national champion. I mean, and so the dude lives to bust my balls. I mean, he just every Monday night when he comes in there, I mean, he ain't got nobody on his mind but beating me. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of my driving factors right there. To
Yeah.
bigger than me, but to keep ahead of him right-handed, that's a big ask. That's a goal right there. So
Yeah,
Robert
right.
Fowler, I'm not giving up yet, buddy.
You're like, all I got to do is feel good Friday to put that wrist out on Plyler's pinky. That's my only job in life.
That's I can get the goose. He's done. Yeah, that's kind of a funny story. Of course, Cobra, they got Cobras, they called it the Cobra. Well, Mike Bianchi got to laughing at me. He said, "You do the same thing, but just not as good. So we're going to nickname it the Goose." They've been calling it Goose for years. I said, well, maybe at least by now it's the Goose 2.0 or something. Maybe it's got a little better.
Yeah. You need to say the goose ain't found a pinky it couldn't whoop yet.
That's right. That's right.
That's funny. Yeah, man. Well, I feel like we had a pretty good talk here. I can't wait to till you get Chad Silvers on there. He's like a mystical creature. I've heard about him. I've seen him in some 10-year-old videos, but he doesn't seem like a talkable guy. I'd be interested to hear what you and him could dig up, man. Between y'all, you got a pile of knowledge.
He's pretty quiet, but like I said, I think I'm one of the few that can get him to do a little bit of talking. But we're going to take Jamie Fortenberry with me, and Chad's dad's going to be there, and his dad was just like my dad. He was at every single tournament that he went to. Man, he was right there with Chad, taking care of him and pulling for him and supporting him. So yeah, I want to go back and like I said, I really want to do it right. And by the way, you have inspired me with this. I'm actually going to start trying to do a little bit of this myself. I talked to Corey Miller today, and sometime before he leaves, going over to East versus West, me and him's going to sit down. He came to the house. Golly, time flies. I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years ago, probably right before he pulled Eduardo Tate, or however you say it.
Yeah, I know him.
He was there about 2 weeks before. He was there about 2 weeks before that because my wife fixed a big old meal for him. He said, "I'm sorry, I can't eat." Got 7 or 8 pounds to lose, so he just nibbled on it. But that's a bad dude right there. So of course he's pulling that Daniel. I'm not even gonna attempt to butcher his last name, but he's gonna have his hands full. That kid's tough.
Yeah, is it the Daniel, the guy from overseas?
Yeah, Procopi.
It's Porcopinu or something. He's like he's got a mini he's gone to many a podium over there in Europe. So that there just goes to show you pound for pound. And good part about Corey West is about Corey the Flash Miller is that he's never heard of a weight class. He doesn't care. He's like, I don't care how big you are. Come on.
Yeah. That tournament that he pulled John Brzezinski in the last year. I mean, Brzezinski, you could see Brzezinski just wince when he hit him. He's like, God, that's ridiculous. It's somebody and that Daniel guy appears to be pretty slow. I watch him a lot of times. He wins in just big, long wars and stuff with the wrist back. And he let Corey get him over there. I'm not sure Corey won't put that hammer to him. So he better get rolling quick or Corey's going to end it up in a hurry.
Yeah, even I remember the last match I saw, Corey Miller pulled Giannis Amalins, and you could even see the first round, Giannis had to make quite a few adjustments and everything because Corey had him blasted all the way over on doing this number here. And Giannis was like, man, I can't do that over 5 rounds. So he had to figure something out.
Changes for sure. I pulled Giannis third round of WAL. It was either WAL Vegas or WAL Chicago. I can't remember. I went to 3. But yeah, I won my first couple rounds and then I had Giannis and I'm like, okay, I'm smart enough to know I can't beat this dude. But if I can stop him, if I can get in my spot and just hold him for 30 seconds, that's going to be a big win for me. Nah, that joker plowed through me like nothing, boy. I mean, that joker's strong.
Yeah.
But Corey's a different animal. I'm telling you, Corey, like you said, he knows. He's never heard of a weight class. He doesn't care. He don't care how big you are. One term, I think he pulled every weight class.
Yeah, and I think he kept right on winning too, right up to the top. And that was just crazy.
And he's not very big and bulky and that kind of thing. That's I feel certain that he's one of the very few out there that's great. That's not that's not roiding, because he just seems to be the same weight all the time. And you talked about earlier about being consistent. Well, I've had injuries and stuff up and down, but when you don't take juice, you're kind of the same guy all the time. You don't need that 2 months to get super strong or whatever, because I've had guys that I just whack them and then come back 2 months later and they whack me. I'm like, what in the world? And then come back 2 months later and I bust them again. I'm like, yeah, I know what it was. Got on the good stuff for a little while there.
Yeah.
So, but it's all part of the sport, but that's what makes it fun.
That's right. Well, hey man, it was a pleasure talking to you tonight. Hopefully this felt just real easy and relaxed, because that's exactly what it is. And
Yes,
so
sir.
I appreciate you talking to me, and I hope next time I talk to you, hopefully it's in person and we're doing a little practicing.
Yep. All right. Have a good night, buddy.
You too. Thanks again, Rick.
All right.
I'll see you around.
All right. See you, bud.